Hey everyone, welcome to DES 104. This is our last week, week 4. Did you ever think you'd see it? We are concluding this mod. It flies by fast. 4 weeks can go by very quickly. I want to welcome those who came into class today. Thank you, Rachel. It's nice to have you joining us. All right, and we are going to start out by going over a few housekeeping tidbits, just little information that you might want to know. I'm actually going to do the tutorial, the demo first, and then we'll jump into our slides second, just in case. I know it's late for some people on the East Coast, so I'm not sure if everyone's going to be able to stick with me today. So I will do the demo first, and like I said, we'll then go into our slides the second half of class. So if you have to leave, you can. All right, and then you can always catch the recording. So how did week 3 go? Let's start there. Did you find it challenging? Not challenging enough? Did you have fun at least? Good, you enjoyed it. That's good to know. Anybody else? I'll go ahead and start the video as we're talking a little bit about what we're going to go over. Okay, so then hello everyone. A little challenging trying to figure out what to do with your picture. Yeah, that's always the hardest part. It's just kind of coming up with that creative concept. Once you have it, you can just roll with it. But that is the difficult part. I'm glad. I hope it was fun for everybody. It was actually a fun demo to do, and it's actually a fun assignment to do. So surprisingly, everybody did very, very well. I liked the creative concepts. No two people had the same concept, and that makes it always fun for me when I'm grading. But let's talk about what we can expect this week, okay? So this is the last week. You want to do all your work, get it in early, because come to the multi-session. I can't emphasize this enough. Your final project, I'll go ahead and close out the video. Your final project is worth 185 points. That is that's double what double what most of your assignments are. So it's kind of like if you missed a discussion, it's 60 extra points along with 120 points. So it's 185 points. This is a big deal. So this can really make or break your grade. So I really recommend to all of my students, get your work done early in the week so that you have time to get answers to your questions on Thursday. Some students even like bringing their final project in on Thursday, done and completed, ready to submit, and they get some feedback before they do that. It's a great way to avoid any simple mistakes, little simple things that you kind of overlook. And it's a great way to get answers to your questions if you have them. And then you can get it turned in before the deadline Saturday, because I guarantee you, if you felt the sting of trying to upload an assignment Saturday evening, where everything's just stalled and it's taking forever. I get so many emails from students saying, I was trying to upload and it wasn't uploading. My computer froze, the internet was going so slow. It's because everybody campus-wide is uploading at the same time. So if you can avoid that Saturday deadline, ideally just get it turned in even after the multi-session. So come and get your answers to your questions and get some help if you need help. Let's talk about week 4 work and late work. I've given a few of you some late extensions, so if you need to get late work in, this is the last possible week. There are no extensions beyond this point. There are no extensions on the final project. I'll get to your question in just a minute, Rachel. Great question. I just want to emphasize that you will be locked out of the class Saturday at 11:59 p.m. That is the deadline for your final project. If you get it in 1 minute late, you will be locked out of class, meaning I will not see your assignment. You will not be able to upload it, and you won't even be able to get into the class because they kind of just lock you guys out. So I explained this a little bit during week 1 and kind of emphasized getting in the habit of submitting it before Saturday so that you can avoid this problem. But don't let this happen to you. I've had a lot of students email me, I'm locked out of my class, I can't get my final uploaded, and at that point there's nothing I can do. So I can't accept anything that's not uploaded through the system. I'm not allowed to do that. So just be aware that you kind of avoid this problem. Okay, so Rachel has a question. Okay, so she's asking, It's just the poster and career integration quiz this week. That's right. And your poster, you're creating two different versions. So you're creating a PDF of the large version, then you're going to create a web version, which is a JPEG, and it's different dimensions. So please be aware of that. We'll go over that at the end of the assignment. Great question. Any other questions? There is no discussion this week, in case you're wondering. Usually we have 3 discussions during the 3 weeks, and then the 4th week you're asked to do a career integration quiz. It just kind of asks, was this class helpful for you, with the career path that you've chosen? It's just kind of 3 to 5 questions, I think. It's not very many questions, and it's just kind of opinion based. You will be graded on grammar and on punctuation and on the length of your responses and the details in your responses. You won't be graded for your opinion. If you say this class didn't help you at all, then that's your opinion. But you will be graded on grammar, spelling, punctuation. Don't make it too informal. Please be detailed about your responses, and don't just give one-liners. We want to hear from you. So that is what you'll be graded on. It's 15 points. It's a great way to make up some extra points that you might have lost throughout the mod. And then yes, to answer Rachel's question, it's just the final project. And then don't forget your daily checkpoints this week also. But there will be no discussion. Does that help, Rachel? Perfect. Any other questions about this week? Other questions? Okay. Can you guys see my slides okay? Okay, good. Just want to make sure it's up and ready to view. Okay, so it's question time. So as you'll be pursuing this, this industry, you'll find that there's lots of different graphic arts jobs out there, lots of different avenues that you could go. And I'm not sure how many of you are pursuing this as a hobby or as a real career, but you can use Facebook to get a job. How many of you guys are on Facebook? Yeah, I am too. And all the instructors are. Yeah, exactly. So we all kind of, we're on social media at some, in some way, but Facebook seems to be the common resource. So use Facebook to get a job. I've compiled here a list of Facebook pages if you want to take a screenshot of it. But Facebook can give you more than just cute cat pictures and memes. It can give you job listings right to your newsfeed, which is really cool. If you're on Facebook as much as I am, then that would be a daily feed. So go and like these pages and kind of relish in the opportunities that are available to you. There are a lot from big companies too, like Disney and Nickelodeon, and let's see, entertainment careers. There's like a ton of Facebook pages that you could go, and all you have to do is like them and you'll get their feeds. So this is a great way. Even graphic design jobs is #1. This is a really cool website. So I'll copy these and put these in the chat box if you want to just kind of peruse them as we're talking, kind of start liking them while we're going over things, or you can take a screenshot and look it up later. But this is a really fun way to kind of stay current in the kind of job openings, and they might post internships too or give more information. So if you want to message them, you can do that if you're looking for something. Okay, so the big question is, how do we make money, right? We're graphic designers. How do we make money? Well, I ask you, are you ready to make money? How many of you have heard of Shutterstock? It's just a stock photography website. But have you guys heard of Shutterstock before? Yeah, it's pretty common. It's one of the most common ones. I've used Shutterstock quite a bit. Well, Shutterstock is pretty cool in the fact that if you're a photographer, let me show you this real quick. If you are a photographer, you can submit your photos and they will purchase them from you. And you can make money off of it. Well, you say, well, I'm not a photographer, I'm a graphic designer. The same concept applies. Let me show you. Let me pull this website up for you. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. So you can see here, I just went to this link. I'll put it in the chat box in just a minute, but you can earn money doing what you love. If you are a graphic designer, you can create images, vectors. They're always in high demand, whether they're icons or textured backgrounds or illustrations. You're learning how to do this kind of stuff. And you can sign up and submit your royalty-free images and footage and vectors and illustrations. If you're a videographer on the side, you can do that as well. But you can contribute and make some money. So that's kind of cool. So as you're designing things in class, this is not a bad idea. So just wanted to point it out to you. Don't know if you were aware that that was a possibility. Okay, so during this mod, you've learned a lot of different skills. Are you guys currently creating a portfolio, or do you guys have a resume in the works? I like to kind of get a feel for that. Okay, so I got a yes. All right, so hopefully this is in the back of your mind. I know this is a beginner's course, so some of you may not have even thought about it. You're like, hey, I just got Photoshop downloaded on my computer. I don't really, haven't even thought about my portfolio. As you're going through your graphic design classes, you're going to be doing these projects, these final projects, even assignments during the mod that you may want to save and put in your portfolio. And that's the portfolio side. But the side of qualifications for your resume, you also want to keep a list. So here's just an example of skills list of software. But can you list some new skills that you've learned in this class? You can respond in the chat. There's no right or wrong answer. I'm just curious, what skills or new skills have you learned? So the surface blur for one, okay. So just learning the different tools and learning Photoshop in general, right? I would say too, what about multitasking? Because you kind of have to do multiple things. You're kind of juggling things as you're doing. You're not. This is probably not the only class you're taking, or if it is, you're juggling life and work and family or whatever. And also with class, so you're kind of learning how to be a multitasker, being able to crop easily and efficiently. Yep, that's another one. Yeah, over some 3 classes in managing 2 businesses. So you're learning how to juggle and multitask. Absolutely, you're gaining knowledge about the software. You're getting familiar with print design and web design and even some multimedia design, wouldn't you say? So this is kind of cool. And you can say, hey, I have proven success that following through with challenging tasks, meaning I've gotten good grades in this class. So there's a lot of things that you can do. You can say I'm successful at working alone or in a team, but this is just under the summary of qualifications, just a few ideas of things that you can add to your resume based off of what we've done this mod. So that's kind of a neat thing. Just wanted to point it out there. Okay, so here's a list of things that you should walk away having learned at some point in the class, whether it's through my lectures or the class readings or the assignment tutorials or the extra links that I've posted. But basically, you've learned it in like you said, basic Photoshop tools. That's kind of the first thing that we cover. Fixing and adjusting photos, making selections. We learned how to make masks. Using typography, we're going to learn a little bit more how to style typography today. So that's going to be kind of fun. And then vector and pixel art. We kind of are learning the difference between the vector and pixel art. Do you guys know the difference? So a vector is an image that you can resize as large as you want, and you would never, and it doesn't affect the quality of the image. A raster or pixel art, picture, object, whatever you want, when you zoom in or resize it, it starts getting increasingly pixelated. So you will notice that in photography, pictures, these are all pixel art. They're raster images. But vector art is different because you can resize it and blow it up as big or zoom in as close as you want, and it will never look pixelated. So that's why we encourage you to design with vectors when it comes to logo design and things like that. So that's vector versus pixel. Anyways, you should be learning Photoshop shortcuts to help you, digital painting, blending modes, adjustment layers, all of these things, planning your portfolio using texture, the importance of white space. We're going to be talking about that today. And then treating every assignment like a portfolio piece. These are things that hopefully you walk away feeling, yeah, I did learn that, or in some way got introduced to it. Okay, so you want to be successful on your final project. Watch this demo. Whoops. So this demonstration is a simple way how to make your poster. It kind of gets you on the right foot. So I'm going to take this link and I'm going to copy it here. You want to save that for later. I will post it in the announcements like I do every week, but this is a great way to show you how to set up your document. It shows you how to get started. It doesn't do the entire thing for you. That's what this tutorial will be. But it will show you how to save your assignment as a PDF and then how to resize it to the specs for the JPEG. So if you've already seen this demo, then use this time to get started on your project and just ask me if you have any questions. If we have time, we'll probably watch the first 4 minutes of it. But we will wait. We'll wait and see what time looks like today. Okay, let's talk about the assignment. How many of you have looked ahead? Okay, good. So you kind of knew what to expect. Don't be overwhelmed by the length of the information. Basically, what you're going to need to do is create an 11 by 17 inch poster. Okay, and then you can pick a topic. Usually it just kind of expresses your stance on an environmental, political, or social issue that's important to you. So you as a designer get to pick a topic that's important. And then if you'd like to use an alternative topic, then you'll probably need to contact me for approval. So I suggest just sticking with one of the 3 here suggested. But the poster is going to provide like a basic in-depth understanding of the type tool, as well as offer you guys an opportunity to use and demonstrate the knowledge that you've already gained about many other tools and kind of incorporate it all in one. So in spite of the nature of a web-based class, knowing how to design for print is really crucial. As you continue to progress in your graphic design classes, you're going to be designing a lot of print projects. And so in this final project, you're going to be designing it as a print project and converting it into a web optimized image for presentation. So it sounds a little bit more convoluted than it really is. Simply put, you're going to create a PDF, a high-res PDF for print, and then you're going to create a low-res web JPEG. So this is about it as far as the directions. I have posted the rubric so you can see exactly the breakdown and how you guys are going to be graded so that you know there's no surprises and you know exactly what you're going to be graded on. I'm going to be grading on creativity, execution, and mastery of the tools we have learned. So if you're using the clone tool and I can see that it's not quite mastered, you will get docked a few points from that. So just practice and just go slow. Take some time to do this, okay? Now, it's always hard to kind of find that creative concept, so I'm with you. So go to Google. Use Google as kind of your inspiration. This is kind of an example. This is interesting. It's an ad or a poster on about depression. And so this is from the National Hopeline Network. It's an ad it's kind of an ad campaign about it. And it's very interesting. So here's another one about environmental awareness. Kind of like a collage, if you will. Treat the earth how you want the earth to treat you. It's really interesting. A lot going on, a lot of Photoshop work here. But this is a really cool concept if you wanted to go the environmental route. I changed up the rubric a little bit, so we'll skip that. Okay, so basically tips for poster success. I want you to use a grid system. Use hierarchy in your text. Don't stretch your graphics. Remember, hold down the shift button if you're resizing anything. And then the standard best practices apply. So I want you to kind of, we'll go over grids at the very end of class, but I really want you to be able to just basically be aware of how you're laying things out, okay? Okay, other best practices. No Google Images, please. Only use licensed free stock photos, okay? Not Google. Use the free website, the stock photography free website that we've provided you. I believe it is sxc.hu. It's the free images.com. I'll post it in here. Also, if you need to find the link, if you're watching this from home, the link is found under the assignment 3 when you did your composition, okay? You can find that free stock photography website available to you. Have a tutor check your grammar, spelling before turning it in, a tutor or me, and then use visual hierarchy. We'll talk a little bit about that. Keep it simple and don't increase the size of any raster objects or photos, and hold down the shift button when you're resizing because that's really important. It keeps you from skewing or squishing or stretching images or objects, okay? It constrains those proportions. So it's really important that you hold down the shift button when you resize. And then make sure there's enough value, contrast between text and background. We don't want dark colors on dark backgrounds. It's really hard to read. Same thing with light colors and a light background. That's hard to read. We want good contrast. So if you're using a light background, you want a really dark text so that it's easy and it pops off the page. All right, any questions? Okay, if no questions, we'll go ahead and go over more typography suggestions. Today I'm going to show you a little demo on how to stylize your typography for your poster, and I think it's really cool. Use kerning. Kerning is the spacing between your letters, and leading is the space between your words. So no more than 2 fonts per design. Please be aware you don't use too many. Stick with 1 is my suggestion, but to add contrast, you can use 2. Make sure you align your text properly so everything lines up together. And then I want you to avoid hyphenation if you can. Hyphenation, just remember to just hit a return so words aren't cut off. And then avoid widows and orphans. So just kind of the dangler words that are just kind of hanging alone. And then maintain value and contrast between the background and the text for your poster. This is really important. Okay, we're going to get into this later. Let's jump into our tutorial. Does everyone have Photoshop open? Okay, so first thing I want you to do is just download a picture or grab a picture you used from assignment 3. Just, it doesn't matter what it is. I want you to practice a little. I'm going to go over a demo and I want you to practice it because I want you to show me that you understand the concept. So grab an image or 2, and then with Photoshop open, I'm going to go ahead and stop the share. We'll go into how we set up our document. Get all this set up. All right. So I'll give you a minute to look for the images that you're going to use. And I say this because we're going to be, it's actually kind of a fun tutorial. But okay, so without further ado, we're going to go to File at the top of the screen, click New to set up our new document. It's going to pull up your new document dialog box. Mine is going really slow, so please bear with me. There we go. Okay, so first things first is you're going to create a custom document. Please be aware of your units of, or your increments of measurement. We want it to be on inches. And the width is 11 by 17. You can choose to go horizontal or portrait or horizontal. It's kind of up to you. Right now for this demo, I'm just gonna select portrait. And then for your resolution, you want it to say 300 pixels per inch. For the color mode, you want it to be CMYK color. And the reason being is because we're now designing for print. So when we design for print, we want it to be in the CMYK color range. If we were designing for web, we would switch it to RGB. So that's a new concept right there. It's just kind of changing it to the CMYK color mode. All right, background's fine. You can hit create. And the first thing you're going to want to do is save it. You can hit a keyboard shortcut Command S or Control S on your keyboard. Or you can go to File, Save As. And you're going to want to give it a name. You're going to want to name it DES 104. We want the class. We want the assignment, Assessment 4. And we want your name. Okay? That way we can keep track. Oh, wrong class. There we go. All right. And then save it somewhere where you will remember where you put it. I usually just put it on my desktop and then organize it later. If you have a Design 104 folder, perfect, use that. We want it to be a Photoshop format and you'll hit save. Okay? So now we have our document and we're gonna grab our type tool and just kind of click and drag here. And with all caps turned on, I'm going to type this out. Good question. We'll go over the grids in a little bit. You can sometimes just view your grid. So you can either snap to guides or turn on your grid right here. You see that? So if you go to view and then go to, oops, there we go. View and then snap to, and just make sure that your grid and guides are turned on. You see that? So view, snap to, and then grid. And the reason why we have the grids on is because, and that's a great question, Rachel. Thank you for asking. I'll go over it later on, but since we're in here, we might as well have it on. I don't want things in the middle of your grid. I want you to line them up with your grid, okay? So like plants, the word plants would kind of be lined up here, this bottom third of the page. Or if you wanted it on the top third, whatever you want to do with it, just kind of make sure you use your grid system to kind of make sure things are kind of in their own sphere. Okay, and then now that my text is typed, so what I want you to do for this demo is, as you're following, you don't have to type exactly what I've got and the way I've got it. I just want you to type a big fat word. Okay, so type a big word on your page and then let me know when you've done that, because we're going to move forward with the next step. So just a smiley face, or I'm good to go, it will be fine. Perfect. Okay, so now that we have this typed out, we're going to duplicate our layer. Now you can either click on, I think it's Command J or Control J if you're on a PC. That will duplicate your layer, or you can right click on the original layer and click Duplicate Layer, and it will ask you, what do you want to call it? And I'm just going to call it, let's see, type copy. Just so that I know this is a copy of what I originally created. And we're going to turn off the original text in case we want to come back and edit it later, because what we're about to do will make this uneditable. So that's why we made a copy of it. So we turned off our original type layer. which will allow us to go in and change the words if you want it to say something else, or if you want to make alterations to it later. This is your editable copy. So we'll hide it. And then on the top, we've got our duplicate. Are you with me so far? So Command J will create a new layer, or Control J. Okay, my copy is turned on, and my original layer is type layer is turned off. Now what I'm going to do with my copy layer selected, I'm going up to Layer, Rasterize, then go to Type. So Layer, Rasterize, and then Type. And what I've done now is I've turned this copy into a picture. So now it's one element. It's even pixelated. You can see as you zoom in that it does get a little bit pixelated. But this has been turned into a picture. So with that, I'm going to create a new layer for each word. Okay, so are you with me so far? So go to Layer, Rasterize, Type. Next, I'm going to grab my rectangle marquee tool. And I'm just going to select the type, kind of draw a box around each word, but I'm going to do it one at a time. So I've drawn a box here. I'm going to go to Layer, New, Layer via Cut. And what you see happen is a new layer is created. This is my Eat layer. And then I'm going to grab my marquee tool and do the next word. So I'm going to highlight the word More. See that? And then I'll go up to Layer, New, Layer via Cut. Oh, whoops. Okay, so it wouldn't let me do that because I was on my Eat layer. I need to go back to my Type Copy layer and then go to Layer, New, Layer via Cut. And go back, rename this one. This is my More layer, just so that I know what word I'm on. Okay, Rachel, I can't select that one. Okay, are you on your Type Copy layer? First, make sure you're on your Type Copy layer. Okay, good, awesome. And then go back to my layer, grab the marquee tool, and I'm gonna highlight the last word. And you can see it's highlighted here, so I'll go to Layer, New, Layer via Cut. It's all the way at the bottom. And a new layer was created. And here I will label this one, my Plants layer. And I'm only labeling it so that I know what word is what and what layer we're on here, okay? All right, any questions about this so far? Oh, are you with me? So basically we turned each word into its own individual layer. So it's a simple concept, is a little confusing at first, but each word now is its own layer, and I'll show you why we're doing this just in just a minute. Okay, so now we're gonna grab that picture that I told you to grab. Any picture will do at this point. We're just gonna practice the concept, okay? So let me grab an image that I've got set up. And I'm gonna drag it into Photoshop. You can either go to File, Open, and then open the image that way, or you can drag and drop if you're on a Mac. And, whoops. Let me try to find the picture I was looking for. Here we go. Oop, that's not it. Where'd it go? Here we go. Okay, this should be a picture of a plant of some kind, but it's not. I'm just showing you for design purposes how to do this. So you grab your picture, whatever you want. You're gonna hit Command T to transform your image. Hold down Shift as you click and drag your anchor points. What this does is it helps you resize your image, okay? And you kind of get it where you want. You can eyeball it or you can resize it at a later time. And I'm going to move this layer so that I'm going to hit Command S just to place it and save it. Okay. I'm going to make sure that my fish layer is, or my picture layer is on top of my word that I'm going to want to merge. Okay, with me so far? So once you've shrunk down the picture, put the picture over the word, the eat layer is the first layer, and the picture is now the second layer. So we're going to hold down the Alt Option button and click between the two layers. And what that does is it automatically combines the layers. It's kind of cool. You could even hit Command T, and you can resize the picture itself within the type. Kind of move it around where you want it to go. This is kind of a bad picture. One, it's not about plants, but two, it's hard to read. It's got a lot of white in it. I might need to go look for a picture with trees or something, but anyways. See if I can expand it a little bit. There we go. It'll ask you if you want to place it, and you'll say yes. All right, so did you catch how I did that? So the next picture, let me see if I can find a picture of a plant real quick on my website, and then we'll download it. Okay, next one's coming up. Remember, use that Free Stock Photography website also. This is a great resource to use. So you don't have to pay for pictures, but you get high-res images. The next picture is just some random picture of a plant. I thought it was a lot better than a fish. So I'm going to hold down Shift as I resize this, and I'm going to place it over my word more. I'm going to go to my, make sure you place the photo. And then I'm going to move that layer so it's over on top of my more layer. So that's the next word that I want to merge. So the plant picture is now on top of my more layer. And I'm going to hold down Alt Option and click between the two. And now it will let me merge the images. So what I'm going to do now is hit Command T, and I'm going to transform, or resize rather, my image. There we go. Okay. And I'm going to do the same thing for the word plants. And I'm just going to go grab a random plant picture. Okay, so how is your attempt to do this working out? Are you guys following along okay? Do you want to share your screen? Do you have any questions? Once I have the image placed, I'm going to move that layer over my last layer, which is the plants layer. I'm going to hold down Alt Option and click between the two. And this will allow me to this will allow me to resize and merge the layers. Okay. So there you have it. That's a really cool way to kind of incorporate your typography and kind of jazz it up a little bit. All right, so have you guys tried this yet? Would you like to share your screen? Would anyone like to share their screen to show me they got the concept? Not yet? Okay. Well, let me know if you're at a point where you'd want to share. This is a great start. Next thing you can do is go to your, like my eat layer. I can hold down the Command button and click on multiple layers at a time. And right now what I'm doing is I'm clicking on each individual layer. So I've got the eat, the more, and the plants layer selected. I'm going to go up to my image mode, or sorry, let's see. I can also change, let's go to, click on my brightness and contrast. You can adjust the brightness and contrast, hue and saturation. This is where I can kind of darken things, can change the color of things if I want. Let's go back to hue and saturation. There we go. Now with the image layers selected, I can go in and kind of change the coloring so it's a little bit more uniform. Like that. I can adjust the saturation, and I can mess with the lightness or the darkness, just like that. Okay, another thing that I can do, if you click on effects, let's see, let's click on the let's click on the word layers, and maybe click on one at a time and go to let's see, drop shadow. And now with my plants layer selected, I can give this a drop shadow. So what that does is it kind of gives it exactly what it sounds like, a little shadow. It also helps outline. So as I increase the distance and the spread, you'll notice the change. I can increase the size a little bit. The opacity. So if I brought the opacity to about 100%, it gives a nice black outline shadow to it. I can even increase the size, but you can see how it's changing. Now with these values, I can go in and do each word at a time. So I'll hit OK. Next one is the more layer. Click on effects here at the bottom of the screen and click on drop shadow. And it kind of maintains your same properties. I'll hit OK. Go to the eat layer, click on effects, drop shadow, same values, hit OK. So what this does is it gives me a little bit more contrast between my background and my type. So it's a little bit more legible. My type had a lot of white and a lot of light in it, and so it kind of blended a little bit too much with the white background layer. So this was a good way to add some contrast and make the letters pop off of the page a little bit. So that's also a really cool effect that you can give your type to give it some more character and a little bit more dimension. Are there any questions at this point? All right, so cool concept. It's kind of a simple way to add a lot of visual interest to your ad. Another thing that you can do, well, I guess we'll go into the next demo. Okay, so say that you were done with this. Obviously, you'd probably want to add a little bit more. Whoops. You'll want to add a little bit more to your design than this, but if you were done designing, this is how you would save it. So you would go to File, Save As, and then you give it a name. So DES 104, Assessment 4, last name or your name at least. Save it somewhere, and then you want to deselect layers. We don't want it to have layers. We just want it to go to Photoshop. Let's see, where's PDF? There we go, Photoshop PDF. And you want to make sure that layers box is unchecked. What that does is it makes the file a lot smaller and it's easier for you to upload. And then we will save copy. High quality print is great. You see this box here, it says preserve photo editing capabilities. We want to uncheck that box because we don't want any layers in this PDF. It also will help with the file size. And then hit save PDF. And that will create your PDF for you. All right. Now, the other part of the assignment asks you to create a JPEG. So we want to make sure, and you have to resize this file. So in order to resize, you'll go to Image, Image Size, and it will pull up this dialog box here. Now it says to change the shortest side to 500 pixels. So that is our width. My shortest side is our width in this case. And I will hit OK. So now that created a very small web optimized document for me. Now I'll go to File, Save As, and go to JPEG. And then hit, make sure it's saved, DES 104, Assessment 4, give it a name, and hit Save, hit OK. And that now created and resized your entire document without you having to transfer all your layers to a new document. So that's a crucial step here. Want to be able to save you as much time as possible. So it preserves your layers. It also resizes the document as a whole, which is what you want. Okay. Are there any questions about how to save? You will upload your JPEG and your PDF in the Dropbox. I do not need a zip file. I won't need anything else other than a PDF and a JPEG. All right, it's pretty straightforward, but I just want to make sure that you guys are aware of this. All right, so I'll close out. Oh, don't save. Okay, so that's how to do that assignment. Next, all right, here's another option. This is a more simplified demo. I'll do a little bit more complicated one where we utilize all the tools that we've been learning through the last 3 weeks. But this one, again, is in a grid system, so this is really nice to have. I'm going to start out with my background. I'm going to hide everything. This. And you start out with type, so there's nothing fancy to this at all. I just typed out a phrase and then positioned it above and below the shape. And then I'm going to go to my shapes, hold it down, and go find the custom shape tool. When you click, it kind of looks like a little blob icon. When you click on your custom shape tool, do you remember back in week 2, if you go at the top of your screen here, there's a little drop down menu and you have kind of like a little mix of shapes that you can use. Some of you may have more on your computer. You can also download custom shapes if you wanted. But in this case, I'm just going to grab the heart. And then I'm going to create a new layer. And I want to make sure that up top here it says shape. And I'm just going to hold down Shift as I click and drag. Because what this is going to do is it's going to allow me to constrain my proportions so my heart isn't skewed. And I'm going to use these grid lines to kind of snap into place. Make sure everything is lined up on the top, same amount of space on the bottom. And then my heart is nice and centered here on my document. Now, in this case, we would probably want to create a few clipping masks and place the images in the heart. So first things first, let's see, the animals. Let me grab an animal photo. Oops. And I'm just on that free stock photography site. Okay, I'm going to grab the cutest picture of a lion that you ever did see. And I'm going to put it into Photoshop. And remember how we used our brush tool to create a clipping mask. So what we're going to do is hit Q on our keyboard, and that highlights our layer in red. That's how you know that you've activated this particular tool. You're going to click on your brush tool, and you can adjust your brush size by using your open and closed brackets. And I'm just going to start painting. I'm going to kind of shrink it down. And I want to get the edges. A smaller brush will get the edges a little bit better. And this tool is really helpful in creating clipping masks when you have kind of a textured, fuzzy object like this lion here. And so what this is going to do is allow me to highlight. I can see the areas that I'm coloring. It'll allow me to get to the edges in a clean way. And I'm just going to kind of color in my host here. Try to get to the edge if I can. I'm not quite sure how much of this lion I'm going to use, so I'm just going to cut out the whole thing. I could even cut out the log if I wanted. Just depends on what you're trying to do. But basically, I'm trying to create a clipping mask for this layer so I can place it in my heart. And what we're doing here is a non-destructive design technique. And like I said, non-destructive techniques are what separate us amateurs from the professionals. You want to use non-destructive techniques always. That's why we create clipping masks. Now with this selected, you can hit Q again, and we're going to hit Shift Command I. That inverts your selection. So now my lion is ready to create a clipping mask. The bottom here, remember the bottom of your Photoshop, there's this icon here, and clicking that creates my my clipping mask. Okay. Now with my brush tool and my clipping mask layer selected, I'm going to make sure black is selected, and black will erase, white will paint back in. So I'm just going to go in here and kind of clean up the edges a little bit. And kind of make sure everything is looking nice and clean before I bring it into my heart layer. Oops. All looks well. Now you'll notice in his ear, I didn't get everything. So I'm going to switch my fill to white, and I'm going to paint it back in. So it fills in, even his eye is a little, I missed some spots in his body that I need to go over. This allows me to paint back in. There we go. So everything is crisp and clean. All right, now I can grab my move tool, and I'm going to click and drag this guy right into my assignment, or where did it go? Okay, that wasn't the file. Let me close out of here. Here we go. Okay, so I'm pulling them in here. Obviously, this is too big, so Command T will help me transform. Hold down Shift as you move the animal down. Now, I could do a collage in the heart, or I could just place this animal in the heart. I kind of want to position it so that not too much of him gets cut off. So kind of shrink him down a little bit. All right, and then you can place it. I'm going to zoom in here, and I'm going to just adjust the opacity a little bit to about 80%. I still want to be able to see my object, my picture, but I want to see that heart behind it so I know where the edges are so I can clean it up. Now with my layer mask selected, my lion layer mask, I'm going to click the brush tool again. And with with black selected, black in the foreground, and I'm going to shrink down my brush really, really small. I'm going to go in and kind of paint over it, and I'm kind of tracing that heart. The idea here is to make it look like the lion is being contained in that heart. Shrink down the brush size even more. Remember, use your open and close brackets for the keyboard shortcut. This makes life so much easier. Okay, and then I'll do the same here at the bottom. So I'll increase my brush size and clean this up. Kind of trace the outline of the heart and paint over this picture. And the idea here is to get as close as you can to the edge because that will make it look as clean as possible. I'm going to shrink down my brush again. And if you have to, get up close and personal with it so that you can clean up all the edges. Now, just like you created the composition in week 2, this is kind of the same concept. You can create a little collage within the shape if you wanted to. This is kind of a neat way to do it, kind of like you did with your assignment. Or you can, I could just leave it as is, the lion. And notice how I'm trying to get the edges of this heart nice and clean. I'm also going to increase the brush size and kind of erase away that hard edge a little bit. Now, another thing I can do is kind of add in some other animals if I wanted to. Let's see what else I could throw in there. There we go. A raccoon should do the trick. I'm just going to download it from that free website, and I'm going to drag it into Photoshop just like this. So again, I'm going to use my brush tool to create the layer. So hit Q. And what that does is it highlights my background layer in red. It says your brush tool is activated. I'm going to increase the file size. Again, the reason why I'm using this tool is because he's got a very fuzzy coat of fur. And this tool is exactly what we want for that because it kind of gives that feathered edge a little bit, the color in his face. Obviously, you'd want to spend more time than what I'm doing on it right now, but for sake of time, I'm just going to kind of rush through this. You want to grab every detail possible. But in this case, this will have to do. Okay, then hit Q on your keyboard again to quit. And then we're going to invert the selection by holding down Shift Command I. That now selects my raccoon, okay? Then I will click my clipping mask layer and it creates one for me. This is my opportunity to clean up edges. So with black in the foreground, I'll shrink down my brush a little bit. I can go and clean up those little green areas a little bit more. Just kind of paint over whatever you don't want. If you want to paint something back in, if you went a little too crazy, you can just switch your fill box to white. Just like we learned how to do in week 2. Now this is all just a review. If you're sitting there saying, I have no idea what she's doing, never even seen that before, I'm so lost, you want to go back to week 2's demos, okay? And how to create, how to use content aware, how to use this the spot healing tool. Also, how to create clipping masks. We learned that in week 3. All right, with this little guy selected, I'm going to take him into our assignment. Hit OK. He's going to come out quite large. So Command T on the keyboard will help us shrink down. Hold down Shift as you click and drag an anchor point. And I'm going to position him over here. I'm going to bring my opacity down so that I can see where he's positioned on the heart. Shrink him down a little bit. I want to try to cover up the black area as much as possible. Okay, hit Command S will save it. And then with it transparent, I've got my layer mask selected. Make sure your layer mask is selected and not the image. And then grab your brush tool again. Black as the fill will help you erase. So you just kind of want to erase around the heart a little bit. I'm just kind of tracing the heart. Shrink down your brush by using your closed brackets. Increase the brush size. You can use your open brackets. That's your keyboard shortcut. If you want to know how to do it manually, you just go here at the top of Photoshop and you've got your brush size that you can adjust here with the sliders. So I'm just going to clean this up. I'm doing a very quick and dirty job. Please spend more time on this than I am. Okay, so once he is selected and cleaned up, I can increase the transparency and move him around. You can also play with the blending modes and see if it does anything cool. I'm not finding anything right now. So I'll go back to normal, but with him selected. And then I can fit another animal here on the left. Let's see if I can find something else. Let's try a capybara. If I can find one that will be good to use. I found one, so I'm just going to download it from that free stock photography website. Oops. Okay. And then I'm going to drag it into Photoshop and do the same thing. Now, in this case, he has a little bit cleaner edges. I could use my magnetic lasso tool and just kind of trace him like this. See how my magnetic lasso tool kind of gravitates automatically towards the anchor points that I want it to create. And I'm just tracing his body. I clicked once and I'm just moving the mouse. And I'll come back to that position. I'll click the clipping mask, and there you have him. That's a lot faster than using that brush tool. But in this case, the detail on the edges is not that great. It almost looks like he was kind of like a choppy job. So what I'm going to do is grab my brush tool, and with black selected, I'm going to increase my brush size, and I'm going to kind of go in and clean up the edges a little bit. So it's not such a hard edge. The only drawback of using the lasso tools is it's a very hard edge and you want to soften it up a little bit. I'm going to kind of go in with a soft brush. The hardness is reduced to 0, and I'm going in just kind of painting over it, as you can see here. All right, now that he is done, I'm going to drop him back into my file, wherever it went. Let's see, where did he go? Close out of these images real quick. There we go. Okay, I'll hit Command T on my keyboard to help me transform. Hold down Shift. I can even rotate him. Not quite sure what I want to do there, but we'll just, we'll pretend that's good. I'll hit apply, and then I'll reduce the opacity on this layer. Grab my brush tool, make sure the layer, the clipping mask is selected. I'll zoom in nice and close, and I'll kind of erase the outside edges. I'm not using the eraser tool, I am using the brush tool, so I'm painting over to clean up the edges, as you can see. So remember, this is a non-destructive editing technique. We're not using the eraser tool whatsoever, because we can always paint this back in if we have gone too far, if we made a mistake. And that's what we want. We want to preserve the editing capabilities of our document, because you never know if you have to go back in and change things. Okay, so with that, I'm going to bring in the opacity. I'll bring my lion to be the layer on the top, so he stands out here. And I'm going to click on the layer, the clipping mask. I'm going to kind of clean up this log here. It's not overlapping the raccoon too much. And I'll make sure my opacity is changed. Whoops, to 100%. Make sure my clipping mask is selected. Move the lion up so he's in the front. Okay. Then we can zoom out and we can see we've got our nice little collage within the shape that we created. Clean this up. All right, so this would be another concept. It's a very simple concept, but this is one. So to create a PDF, we would go to File, we go to Save As, change this format to Photoshop PDF, deselect the box layers. We want that unchecked because we don't want the file to be a huge, large file. We don't want our layers for the PDF. Give it your name, or a name, save it and hit OK, and then make sure that it's a high quality. That's fine. And then deselect preserve Photoshop editing capabilities. We do not want that checked. So right now it's unchecked, so that's good. That's a thumbs up. Hit save PDF, and it will save wherever you put it. In this case, I put it on my desktop. Now we need to resize it for web. So what I'm going to do is go to File, Save As, or I'm sorry, before we save anything, we have to resize it. So go to Image, Image Size, and then you change the shortest side to 500 pixels. In this case, because it's portrait, I'm going to change the width to 500 pixels and hit OK. And it will shrink it way down, which is the point. So it's nice and tiny. You can even zoom in if you hit Command+ on your keyboard, or grab your magnifying glass to zoom in. And then go to File, Save As. And we want that to say JPEG. Where are you? There we go. And hit Save and hit OK. All right, and that now creates a JPEG and a PDF, and those two files are what you're going to upload to the assignment. Okay, true or false? Are you uploading a zip file once you've created your PDF or JPEG? False, right. Don't worry about the zip file. That's one less step. Save yourself the time. It's just the JPEG and the PDF. All right, that is all we've got until we come back from break. So are there any questions about the steps that I took, the tools I used? Any questions at all? Hopefully these demos help kind of give you some ideas. No questions? When we come back from the 10-minute break, what I'm going to have, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to do an ad concept, an environmental ad concept from beginning to finish. We'll have about 40 minutes to do it, and I'll design it for you so you can see like what all the elements you need. I'll be using the different tools like how to create clipping masks, how to use the spot healing brush, the clone tool. So we're going to kind of do a review all in one, and hopefully it'll kind of jog your memory and give you guys some inspiration on this. But we'll go ahead and take our break if there are no questions. Yeah, that's fine, Rachel. Thanks for sticking around. We'll see ya. All right, so I'll go ahead and switch over here. We'll come back in 10 minutes and then we'll go over the full demo in just a minute. And I don't know where my icons are, so we're going to use this. All right, so we are ready to start our third tutorial on how to do this assignment. Are there any questions before we start? Anything you need me to review? Or are we good to go? All right. All right, good to go. So let's jump into this. We don't have much time left. I think we've got about 45 minutes or so. So we'll go ahead and try to get in this. But I wanted to talk a little bit about this ad that I saw. Now it's super, super small. You can't read it, but you can kind of get the concept. I found this on Google, and it says save water, save life. And then it's got the, it's got the company name or the advertiser here at the bottom. Now, the ad is a response to a US nationwide campaign, Save Water, Save Life. The ad uses negative space and color to create a powerful metaphorical message. They're using color in what way? What way are they using color? So basically, the ad shows a cropped fish bowl containing a goldfish with a leaking tap extending from the bowl. That's the composition. In the negative space to the right of the fishbowl is the message in capital letters: Save water, save life. Now, the use of negative space, which is over here where the text is, and the simple typeface, this creates a very clean, concise, and simple message, which also carries a degree of strength with it, because it now creates almost like a focus towards the message instead of a distraction. Now, this ad can be interpreted in several ways, but essentially states that conservation and care of our Earth's water supply is crucial for survival and well-being of all forms of life. So I really like this almost empty fishbowl, the water faucet leaking, the message itself. So even without the message, the text or the type, the overall message of the imagery and the composition, um, it sends a very clear message. You almost don't even need the type, but the two hand in hand kind of create this synergy, and it really is powerful. It creates a very powerful ad campaign. Okay, so it sends a message to the reader about the importance of allocating water efficiently throughout the world and sanitizing it for the well-being of both the environment, the preservation of Earth itself, and the health of people all around the world, which is noted in the by the advertiser. So this specific ad shows a tap dripping water from the fishbowl, slowly draining away from the container that it's preserving a life from, which happens to be the goldfish. And that pop of color focuses the message towards the life form that they're trying to preserve. So another strength of the ad is the use or limited use of color. Now, in this case, the entire ad is in grayscale, and while three-dimensional, fairly simple. So the emphasis comes with the bright orange fish that we have in here, the life form of the image, which is what they're trying to create emphasis on. So this places an emphasis on the fish in the consumed positive space, while the reader's eyes move on to the simple phrase in the negative space. So you'll learn more about positive and negative space as you're going through your design classes, but kind of think of negative space as kind of that empty space, and empty is good. It's good sometimes. It gives elements breathing room, and it also creates focus, believe it or not. So if you have one element really small, like this type, in a large area of negative space, eye now gravitates towards that focal point, that message, because it is the only thing in that big, vast amount of space. So that's a way to create emphasis as well. All right, so that is the idea behind what we're going to be doing. So go ahead and delete that layer, because I saw that and thought it was a cool concept. We're going to go and create. I'm going to go to image size. Now I could do this vertically. I think horizontal will have more effect. I'm going to change the resolution to 300. I'm going to go to inches, and I want to make sure my width is 11, or I'm sorry, width is 17, Height is 11. I'm going to break this. Width is 17 and height is 11. Make sure that the units of increment, the increments of measurement is on inches. That's the units we want, okay? Resolution 300, hit OK. And give it a moment, it is trying to think. And boy, is it taking forever. Hold on. Here, I'll just create a new document for sake of time. It's going to take too long to resize what I've got. It's overloading it, or for some reason it's not. There we go. Sorry guys, it's super slow. It's trying to think. I don't think it wants to work tonight. Let's try this again. Pretend it worked. Okay, it doesn't appear to want to work, so give me a second. I may need to reboot it. I apologize. Or I can just work with what I've got here, I suppose. Let me try it one more time. Hey, okay, there we go. So in this case, I'm going to create a horizontal version of this assignment. I'll hit create. All right, and now I'm going to pull in my fishbowl image, which is this image that I found. And now all these images were created or were downloaded from that free photography website or stock photography website. So again, go look in your assignment for that link. All right, so I'm going to take this picture and I'm just going to drag and drop it right into my file. I'm going to hit Command T, hold down Shift. I'm going to oh, whoops, sorry, I skipped a step. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm going to delete that layer. Go back to my original picture. I'm going to use my marquee tool. I want to highlight the entire thing. In this case, I could use it to highlight a portion of the picture, but in this case, I want to use the whole thing. So I'm highlighting it. I'm going to hit my add layer mask. And then I'm going to drag it into my document. There we go. Now Command T will help me resize it. I'll hold down Shift as I click and drag. And then what I'm going to do is just resize it to the size of my document. And I kind of want it off to the side a little bit. And hit apply. Give it a name. And save it somewhere I'll remember. Hit save, hit OK. Now with my layer selected, all right. So now I can do a couple things. I can use the clone tool to create some more space on the side, I can use the content aware tool to create more of, I guess, more of the gray area if I wanted. So there's a lot of different options, or I could just use the whole picture. It's just kind of whatever you want to do. It's kind of up to you. In this case, I'm not going to do anything with this layer. So for sake of time, I'm going to go to my layer 1. I could grab my, my clone tool. I could paint this in. Oops. Let me deselect this for a minute. Hold on. Everything is running so slow. I do apologize. All right, there we go. Now I can grab my clone tool and kind of paint things in here. Grab my go. You know what is running so slow? I'm just going to use the picture as it is. For some reason, it will not let me, do anything. There we go. Hold on, Shift, I'm resizing it. I may have to reboot Photoshop. I really hope I don't have to before this demo is over. Hopefully it'll let me go quick. All right, so as it is thinking. All right, there we go. I'm just gonna kind of move it over a little bit so it's centered. Now, I need to add my faucet. So I'm gonna go to my water faucet here. I used this for the drip only. So I'll go to, let's see, where did I save? Okay, throw this one in Photoshop. I found this one on the Free Stock Photography website as well. I'm gonna use my quick selection tool in this case and shrink down my brush size and click and highlight the areas that you want. You can hold down your Alt Option button to minus or subtract the areas that it grabbed that you don't want. I'm just gonna go in here and kind of move this brush around. All right, now with that selected, I'm gonna go create my layer mask. Click and drag it into my assignment. Hit Command T to transform it. Hold down Shift as I resize it. And I can do other things with it too, like I can rotate it to fit the angle of my bowl if I want. I'm gonna bring it back down like that. And I'm gonna bring it down low, right there, and hit Save and Apply. Now I'm gonna zoom in. I'm gonna grab my brush tool, make sure black is selected, or I'm sorry, make sure my layer mask is selected. And then with white in the foreground, yeah, black in the foreground, I can erase it now. I'm just gonna kind of erase the edge here so it looks like it's attached to the bowl. I'm gonna increase my hardness a little bit because I wanna make sure it doesn't have too much of a fuzzy edge. The bowl has a very hard edge, so I wanna make sure that it blends in nicely. Okay? Just like that. And then I'm gonna zoom out. I can see that now. That's got a little drip. I think I want more of a drip, so I went and found a different water faucet that kind of had water kind of gushing from it, and that's what I'm going to use. So I'll grab that photo water faucet here. I'll grab my quick selection tool as well, and I'm just going to click and drag and highlight the area that I want to select. And I want all of this water. I don't want this little drip here at the bottom. Probably won't do that last one. Okay, so it looks like I got all of the water. I'm going to hit my layer mask. With that selected, I'll grab my move tool, click and drag that into my assignment. Oops, let's go back. What is that? Oh, it copied something else. Okay, let's do it again. Delete that layer. I don't know what that layer was. Something else. Okay, now create my layer mask. There we go. And now I'll click and drag and bring it into my assignment. And I want to kind of attach it to the top. So instead of a trickle, I'm going to do a gush here. And Command T will help me resize this as well. Hold down Shift. Zoom out so I can see what I'm doing. And kind of rotate it if I want. Oops. Okay, I'll apply that. And then I'm going to zoom in really close here to position it underneath the faucet and make sure everything is touching the way it needs to. I'll grab my brush tool with my layer mask selected. I'll go in and kind of clean things up. I'll reduce the hardness on my brush to a very soft and kind of go in here. Okay. I'll zoom out. Looks good to me. Looks like it's pouring water. Now I need a puddle. So I'm going to get rid of this water faucet picture. And if I can find that puddle of water. Here's a picture I found also on the website. And again, because it has a very smooth edge, I can use my quick selection tool and it's a great option for highlighting things quickly. I'm kind of just highlighting all the edge of it. Oops. If it does that and you get too much, hold down the Alt Option button and that will subtract the space that you don't want. You can always paint it back in too, so it doesn't have to be perfect. All right, that looks good. Now I'm going to create my layer mask. With that selected, I'll click my layer mask icon. There's my perfect little puddle. I'm going to take it into my assignment. And I'm going to bring it down here. And I can resize it if I want to, or I can make a big puddle if I want to. But I don't want it to be the star of the show. That's not what the message is about here. So I'm just going to kind of position it right underneath this drop. I'll hit save, apply the change. And now I want to go in and kind of clean up the edges because I don't want anything hard. So I'll grab my brush tool, make sure my layer is selected. And with black selected in the foreground, I can go in and kind of clean up the edges a little bit. Just like that. Now I don't want it to look like an entire cut and paste job. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a shadow for it, and I'm going to create a new layer. Go to my shapes and grab the ellipse tool. And I'm just going to kind of create this little ellipse shape here. Command T will allow me to rotate it. Click and rotate. I want to hit save, hit apply, hit yes. I'm going to change the opacity on it. It's very, very light. And hit save. So it's like 5% opacity. I'm going to go in with my my brush tool, or sorry, Oops. I'm going to go in with my eraser tool. And I'm just going to clean up the edges of that shadow. I'm going to blend it in a little bit. There we go. All right, it's just a little extra something to give it. I could even go to that shape and go to filter, blur. It would let me blur the shadow a little bit more. I could also go to filter and go to, there's lots of different options I could do. Another thing I could do is go to effects and go to outer glow. I can do a glow on it, or I could choose to do a feather. Let's see, where's that? Could give it some texture here. So I'll select on texture. Okay. All right, now for the star of the show. We want the fish. Let me get rid of all of these open pictures. Now, I found two different kind of fish. I found one fish that he was kind of like, looked like he was at the edge of the water, and I thought that was kind of cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my magic wand tool and kind of select the area. It doesn't seem to be doing a quick, clean job. So I'll just use my quick selection tool. And I'll kind of go in here and highlight. What I want to do is capture that line, the edge of the water. I think that gives it a really cool effect. I'm going to go highlight the edge of the water and the fish's body. Remember, hold down Alt Option to subtract from any space that you don't want. You can always clean this up later. I just want to make sure we get most of him cut out. Hold down Alt Option so I can kind of subtract the area that I don't want. It's hard when you're using an object on a white background. This might be a good idea to do like kind of a channel pull, but in this case, this tool should do the job. I'll shrink down my brush size, try to get a little finer edge to it. That looks about right. I can always go in and clean it up later. Okay. All right, so now what I want to do is click my layer mask. He's all cut out. I can go in with my brush tool with black in the foreground and kind of erase the white edges off of this water line. It's okay if there's some. And I'm just kind of cleaning up things before I pull them into that fish bowl. We want him looking his best. Okay. Looks good enough. For sake of time, we'll go ahead and stop there. I'll click and drag him into the fish bowl. And this is kind of where I want to position him. I want him to be kind of down here. You can do a few things. I want to get rid of this water line here, or I can just have him up here. But for dramatic effect, I think I want to move him down. So I'm going to go ahead and hide him for just a minute. We're going to go back to the fishbowl layer. I'm going to try to clone or kind of clean up this part here. Okay. I think I'm gonna leave this there for a minute. Oh, no wonder. 14%, okay. So with my clone tool selected, kind of go in. Only problem with the clone tool is it's going to look like, it's going to copy the pattern exactly, and that's not what I want. So maybe I could try my spot healing tool. That might help. Let's see. Healing brush tool. Make it a little larger. Bring down the hardness. I'm just trying to get rid of that line. Okay. And then to clean it up, I can grab my clone tool, reduce the opacity on it a little bit. I'll increase my brush size so I get a little bit cleaner edge to it. And I'm just going to go in and kind of clean it up. Just like this. I want to get rid of that white reflection too, because I'm not feeling that. All right, I'll reduce the opacity and go in and clean it up on this side. All right, and then I can go in and I can use the blur tool. This is kind of an effective tool if I want to increase this and kind of go in, kind of blur things out, smooth things out a little bit. Okay, good enough. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my fish layer that we hid earlier. There we go. And I'm going to place him where I want him. I'm going to use the free transform tool, kind of make sure that line extends on that fish bowl. Hit apply. Now I can grab my brush tool. Now you can see he's got some he's pretty rough around the edges. So I'm going to go in here and kind of clean him up a little bit. Grab my brush tool, click on my layer mask. I'm going to go in and kind of smooth out his edges a little bit. So far we've used a few of the tools that we used in week 2 and week 3. This is all kind of a review, hopefully. I'm going to blend in waterline. Just make sure he doesn't have any hard edges on him. I'll kind of shorten his fin a little bit. He's kind of big. I could even give this guy a little drop shadow if I wanted. But that's good. That's good for now. Okay, so next thing I want to do is give him, I want to increase the color because like the other ad, had that pop of orange color. So I'm going to go to, with the layer mask selected, I'm going to click on hue and saturation. And then this will allow me to adjust the color, intensify the color. Oh, whoops. We don't want the entire document color changed. Click on that. Okay. There we go. I can kind of, it could be purple if I wanted. Kind of find an orange color that really pops. There we go. I'm going to highlight that. There we go. All right, so by adjusting the hue and saturation, I was able to give them a bigger pop of color. Now I'm going to zoom out. I don't want colorize. There we go. All right, so I've got my puddle, I've got my fish, I've got my bowl. This is a really cool composition. It's all coming together. Now what I'm going to do is add my type, my type here. And this is where I can use this top space up here. I'm going to do it slightly different than the ad itself, but within using my grid line, I'm going to type in, I'll use all caps in this case. Save water, save life. And then I'm going to go in and make it nice and thick. I want it to be bold. I want it to stand out. Okay. Could do it at the top there, or I could do it at the bottom, but I don't want to cover up my puddle. So the top it stays. I could even have it moved over to the left or the right, but I think centering it does it justice. Then at the bottom here, I could add some information. What was it? You grab the information that we're looking for. Who's that company? It was the USA Nationwide Campaign. I'll just put the website here. Shrink down my text. I'm actually going to change my text to Helvetica. I'm going to do a regular. I want it to add some contrast to that heavy, bold headline that I have. So this is going to be the website, savelife.org. We'll just make it up. I'm going to use my left alignment here at the top. I'll capitalize the S. Like that. Or at the bottom, or I could have it at the far right here. And then I could have my headline on the far left. Or I could have it stretch and go across. It's kind of whatever you want to do. I could even shrink it down if I went Command T and kind of shrunk it down and took advantage of the negative space here on the left. Or I could put it by the faucet for greater impact. But I think that the best impact would be at the very top. So that's where I'm going to place it. In this case, it doesn't work to put it in that negative space. We want it to be large and in charge. So here we go, right in the center. You will have to play with placement a little bit. It's kind of tricky. If this fishbowl and everything was moved over to the left, I would definitely put it on the right-hand side instead of at the top. But because the bowl is already centered, we want the eye automatically goes to that centered alignment. So that's what where I'm going to keep it. And that's why I did it there. Okay, so everything is placed. I'm going to go with my brush tool, kind of clean up the white part between that fish because I don't want that to show. go to my fish layer mask, and I'm gonna go in and kind of shrink this brush down quite a bit and kind of clean it up so he's not so white in his tail. There we go. All right, and obviously more time spent on this would result in a more quality image, but hopefully you get the gist. All right, so that is my ad. Are there any questions on how I did, got elements in here, what I did, how I got it? Any questions at all? On this, I could even use my eyedropper tool, see where it's at. I could grab a darker, like a maroon that's in the orange, or a dark orange that's in here. And I could highlight my text. Let's see, where's my eyedropper? I keep losing it. There we go. I can highlight my text if I wanted to, change the color of words. I think the greater impact lies in having just the fish as a color, but I can always go in and change it like that. So it kind of ties it in. So there is the ad campaign. This is the third demo on how to do the final project. Hopefully you guys have fun with this. Pick something that interests you so that you do have fun with it. I can't wait to see what you guys do with it. And don't forget to go to File, Save as a PDF, and then Save as a JPEG after you've resized it. Are there any questions before we close? All right, guys. Thanks for sticking with me, and feel free to check out that Vimeo link that I will be posting under the announcements. It's I think it's a 6-minute tutorial on how to do this assignment. So this gives you more of an idea of what I'm looking for. You've got to have text, a composition of some sort, and then you've got to create something in color. Also, make sure you only upload your PDF and your JPEG and not a zip file like previous assignments have asked. So if there aren't any questions, we'll go ahead and end class today. Come visit me on Thursday for the multi-session. So if you have any questions or want help on your assignments, I am happy to provide feedback before you submit. So we will see you guys on Thursday.